The body is still warm when they lay him on the stone. A nobleman, throat crushed in a fall, eyes already dim. Asclepius stands over the corpse, hands steady, a serpent coiled around his staff. Around him, the sanctuary is crowded with offerings, rings, coins, clay hearts, proof after proof that miracles have happened here before. But this isn't a miracle. This is a boundary. Far above, on Olympus, Zeus watches with a tightened fist. Because the underworld is thinning, someone is stealing the dead. And if this continues, gods and mortals won't be different anymore. That's why Zeus is about to kill the only man who mastered death. But to understand the execution, we have to go back to the birth. Coronis is dying on a funeral pyre. She's Apollo's mortal lover, and the world believes she betrayed him. The fire is already climbing when Apollo realizes the truth too late. His child is still inside her womb. He dives through the smoke, rips open the burning shroud, and pulls a tiny, squirming newborn into the air, soot-stained, coughing, alive. That child is Asclepius, born of a god, pulled from a corpse, life and death touching in the same instant. Apollo doesn't keep him. He carries the boy to a mountain cave, to the one teacher even gods respect, the centaur Chiron. Apollo thought he was saving a life. He didn't realize he was planting a crack in the wall that separates mortals from gods. And one day, that crack would split the cosmos. Chiron trained heroes like Achilles to fight, but Asclepius was different. He walked through forests, not looking for beasts to hunt, but for roots to harvest. He learned to listen not just to pain, but to the body's quiet warnings before collapse. He watched how people didn't die all at once. They died in stages. And the more he understood the stages, the more terrifying the idea became. If you can stop the stages, maybe you can stop the end. Chiron saw the talent early, and he gave Asclepius a warning that sounded like wisdom and felt like a cage. Medicine is balance. You fix what is broken. You do not replace what is gone. But Asclepius was young, and his blood was half divine. To him, limits weren't laws, they were challenges. So he pushed. He set bones that should have shattered a life. He stopped infections that should have turned black and final. He held back plagues that had erased villages from maps. And every time he won, the question grew louder. At first, it was compassion. But compassion has a dark side. Because once you save someone who should have died, you start asking the question no human is supposed to ask. Why not save them all? Then the snakes begin to appear. In myth, snakes aren't just danger, they're renewal. Shedding skin, starting again. One night, Asclepius watches a serpent revive another snake with a specific herb. He watches the dead reptile twitch, shed, and return. And something inside him changes. He doesn't see death as a wall anymore. He sees it as a disease. And diseases can be cured. People build him sanctuaries that look dangerously like hospitals. Long halls, oil lamps, stone floors cold against the backs of the sick. They come hoping for a cure, but they leave carrying stories. Not prayers, proof. And the stories mutate as they spread. He saved a dying man. He stopped a fever with a touch. He healed what no one can heal. Then the rumor sharpens into something that makes even priests stop breathing. He brought back the dead. Asclepius hears it and realizes what the world is doing to him. They're turning him from a doctor into a loophole. Herbs weren't enough for true resurrection. To cross the final line, the myth gives him something that should not exist in mortal hands. A vial of Gorgon's blood. Blood taken from Medusa herself. From one side, instant death. From the other, the power to restore life. He isn't just treating patients anymore. He's holding a switch that can flip death on and off. A man dies. Hippolytus, an accident. A brutal impact. No breath. No pulse. Cold skin. His family carries the body to the sanctuary anyway. They don't walk in with hope. They walk in with desperation. They lay him on the stone. The lamps flicker. The room holds its breath. Asclepius looks down and knows the rule. Zeus rules above. Hades rules beneath. Death is a contract that keeps reality stitched together. If he crosses this line, he isn't healing. He's breaking the universe. He hesitates. Then he looks at the grieving family, hands shaking, eyes hollow, people who have been robbed by fate. And compassion wins. He opens the vial, not like a sorcerer, like a doctor doing something he swore he'd never do. He applies the blood. Silence stretches so tight it hurts. Then, the corpse jerks. A shallow inhale. Another. Fingers twitch. Color returns. Eyes snap open. Joy detonates through the room. But it's mixed with horror because everyone understands what they just witnessed. A rule breaking in real time. Word doesn't spread. It explodes. And it doesn't stay a rumor. It becomes a movement. A soldier takes a spear through the ribs and smiles through blood because he knows he'll be carried back. No armor, no fear, just reckless certainty. An old tyrant sits beneath gold and marble, shaking hands, gripping a crown like a weapon. He looks at his advisors and says the quiet part out loud. If death can be reversed, I can rule forever. Crowds multiply. Hunger spreads. Homes stack on homes. The old don't make way for the young. The sick don't pass on. Everything stops moving forward. Humanity thinks it's paradise, but from Olympus, it looks like a cancer. Because the cycle isn't cruel, it's necessary, and Asclepius has just torn it apart. Far away, Hades notices the ledger is wrong. The flow of souls has slowed to a trickle. The river Styx is quiet. Charon the ferryman stands on the shore, with no passengers. Hades doesn't panic. He calculates. Then he walks into Olympus, not as a brother, but as an administrator of reality. A mortal is draining my realm. Zeus listens, because if souls don't arrive, the boundary dissolves. And if that boundary dissolves, Zeus isn't king of anything. Zeus feels the threat immediately. This isn't hubris. This is replacement. Death was the final rule that made every mortal compromise. Every king bow. Every warrior hesitate. Every empire build temples. But now, there's a man on earth proving by his actions that death can be argued with. And Zeus sees what comes next. If mortals stop fearing the end, they stop needing the gods. And when gods are no longer needed, they are no longer gods. Zeus does not send a warning. He does not negotiate. The moment comes without drumroll. Inside the sanctuary, another body is placed on the stone. Another family begging for the impossible. Asclepius reaches for the vial again. The next second, the roof turns white. A thunderbolt tears through the sanctuary. Stone cracks. Wood bursts. The air itself shrieks. For a fraction of a second, Asclepius is outlined in raw light, staff in hand, serpent frozen like the universe taking a photograph of its rebellion. And then he's gone. Not wounded, not weakened, erased. The survivors crawl out into ash and rain. And in that silence, they understand the truth that makes their blood run cold. The gods would rather see you die than let someone prove the gods aren't necessary. But the story doesn't end with the thunderbolt, because Asclepius had a father. Apollo looks down from Olympus and sees his son, the greatest healer who ever lived, turn to ash. Grief hits first, then rage. Apollo cannot strike Zeus. The king is too powerful, so he targets the ones who made the weapon. Apollo descends into the volcanic forges of the Cyclopes, giant, one-eyed smiths, the machinery that manufactures Zeus's lightning. The forge is hellish, molten rivers, iron screens, sparks like meteors. And Apollo moves through it like a storm. Arrows snap through smoke. Giants fall into fire. Metal collapses. The forge shakes like it's terrified. He wanted justice. What he makes is vengeance. A father destroying the factory that killed his child. For a moment, Olympus itself teeters, not from mortals, from gods. Zeus's fury is instant. He doesn't just punish Apollo, he makes an example of him. Apollo is forced to serve a mortal king, a god reduced to a servant, because Zeus needs the entire cosmos to understand one rule: no one breaks the contract and walks away. Below, the Underworld's ledgers adjust, the gap closes, souls arrive again. But Zeus hasn't solved everything. He's created a martyr. Mortals have already seen what was possible, and ideas like that don't die easily. So Zeus makes a compromise to quiet the unrest. He raises Asclepius to the stars as Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. Not a man with a vial, not a healer who can resurrect kings. A constellation, controlled, distant, harmless. And on Earth, the symbol remains, the rod with the serpent, the emblem of medicine that still survives today. The irony is sharp. The same hand that destroyed the healer turned him into the icon of healing. That's why this myth survives. Because it asks the question we still haven't answered. If we could beat death, should we? Was Zeus protecting the balance of the world, or just protecting his throne? Tell me what you think in the comments. Was Zeus right? Or did he cross the line? And if you want more myths that ask dangerous questions like this one, subscribe, because the next story is even darker.